So I want you to turn to the person sitting next to you, and I want you to tell them that you're a genius. Hold on. All right. How many people in this audience believe that their thoughts have something to do with their destiny? How many people believe that? So I got to know who I'm talking to here, right? Wow. That's really good. So now here's my next question. How come, as human beings, we keep creating the same circumstances in our life? The same job, the same relationships, the same conditions. How come nothing new happens in our life? I mean, if we accept that belief that our thoughts and our feelings produce our future, then the next question would be, what's happening in my life? Is there anything new happening? Now, quantum physics tells us that there are infinite potentials in the quantum field. In other words, there are innumerable experiences that are waiting as possibility for every single person. And that transcends culture and gender and race and political beliefs and intellectual ability. In other words, if you're alive and your heart is beating and you have a brain, you're creating reality, or you're creating your destiny based on how you're thinking and feeling. And nobody is excluded. Isn't that nice? So, how many people here saw the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? Did you like that movie? You know why you liked that movie? Because it was about you. It was about all of us. It spoke to your potential. It spoke to your possibility to change your mind. Quantum physics tells us, geniuses, that the environment is an extension of our mind. Now, if we change our mind, shouldn't something show up differently in our life? Come on, do you believe that?
Yes.
Yes. So if mind then is this process of thinking and feeling, then we have to say then that our habitual self that we've memorized as a personality, as an identity, is thinking the same thoughts every day and feeling the same feelings every single day. And yet we're expecting a different result in our life. Isn't that insanity? To do the same things and think the same way and expect something to change? So geniuses, think about this. If we know that the environment is an extension of our mind, and we really change our mind, the quantum field of potentials should give us some feedback in our life. And then our life becomes a scientific experiment where we get to see that the events and the opportunities that unfold are equal to the way we think or how well we've changed our mind. Now, how hard is it to change your mind? Now, I'm not talking about ordering chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla ice cream. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about fundamentally mind, body, and soul. Now, every time you have a thought, you make a chemical. And if you have great thoughts, or unlimited thoughts, or happy thoughts, you make chemicals that make you feel great, or feel unlimited, or feel happy. In other words, this immaterial thing called thought activates certain circuits in our brain that produce chemicals that signal the body so that we can begin to feel exactly the way we were just thinking. And if you have a negative thought or an unhappy thought or a self-depreciating thought, in a matter of seconds you begin to feel negative or unhappy or unworthy. That's how fast it works. So the thought then, our thinking, turns on chemistry in our brain and in our body that allows us to feel exactly the way we were just thinking. Now, the moment we begin to feel the way we're thinking, because the brain is in constant communication with the body, we begin to think the way we're feeling. Which then makes more chemicals for us to think the way we feel, and then feel the way we think, and think the way we feel, and feel the way we think. And this process of thinking and feeling and thinking creates a state of being. Then we say, I am unhappy. Because I thought unhappy thoughts and I felt unhappy. And then once I was feeling unhappy, I started to think more unhappy thoughts, which makes me feel more unhappy. And this process of thinking and feeling and thinking creates the state of being, listen closely, in which we memorize an emotional state that we call our identity. I'm guilty. I'm suffering. I'm unworthy. I am insecure. And as this process of thinking and feeling and thinking continues, if we can't think greater than how we feel, we'll never change. And if feelings become the means of thinking, and we can't think greater than how we feel, we're caught in an identity. To change, to truly change, is to think greater than how you feel. So, imagine now. Let's suppose you were thinking and feeling thinking guilty thoughts that made you feel guilty. Just making it up. And the moment you begin to feel guilty, because you're feeling guilty, you begin to think guilty thoughts because you're feeling that way. Which then makes more chemicals for you to feel and then think and feel. And you do that, say, for, I'm going to be conservative, 20 years. And that's because you inherited certain genetic patterns from your parents. Now, you know what you inherit from your parents? What they master emotionally. So if your mother was a master at suffering and guilt, because she was thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking, there's a good possibility one of the offspring are going to have those neurological circuits already patterned in place. Oh, no. But neuroscience and psychology tells us that's only 50% of who we are. That it's the environment, then, that we can shape and change our brains. That our genetics are the starting point in our life. But what if you're raised by the same people with the same emotional propensities? So, we begin to think and feel because we're conditioned and we have the genetics in place to memorize the state of guilt and suffering. Have I lost anybody yet? No? Okay, so now let's pretend now you have this moment of enlightenment. And you say, today, I stop. Now, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to make excuses. And if you're Italian, I'm not going to have self-pity. I'm not going to feel bad. I'm going to stop. Basta. That's right. So now, you're no longer going to think the same thoughts that are going to make the same feelings. Right? You're going to say, I stop.